Are you ready? Ready. Good. Okay. So if everyone's ready, Jonathan, you have the floor.
Good evening. Welcome everyone. It's great to be in QE Park. This is a place that was my high school and probably many of yours. And if you remember, this I believe was the library. It looks a lot different now. So thanks to the BVRA for hosting this and organizing it. I know it's no simple task, and to moderator Harry there, and to all the candidates today for participating. And to you for engaging in our democracy and taking time out of your schedule. Tonight I'd like to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm running for council. 8 generations of my family have called Bronte home. My grandfather, Bill Hill, who many of you knew, was the heart and soul of the community for many years. He owned Lakeside Marketeria, which was a grocery store that helped maintain the village character, and gave us a sense of community that we still enjoy today. It's these deep roots in the community that have shaped who I am as a person, and have led me to pursue a career in urban planning and community development. And I've achieved 2 master's degrees in these fields, 15 years experience on municipal issues, and I've worked for municipalities across Canada and the US, like the City of Toronto, Edmonton, Guelph, Buffalo, New York, and some work in Halton as well. As my wife and I raise a 1-year-old child here, we want to make sure that Bronte and all of its neighborhoods in Ward 1 maintain their sense of community and well-being. As they grow and evolve, we want them to become better for the next generation. However, like many of you, I have some concerns about the path we're heading, and this is the reason why I'm running for town council. Our growth plans for Bronte and Palermo are out of date, and they continue to be appealed. And when that happens, we lose control. Bronte and Palermo lack the amenities and the gathering spaces that they deserve. And I feel our community voice is not always heard on town council. So we are at a crossroads. If we don't change direction, I'm concerned about the future of our community. Please support me in this and vote Jonathan McNiece on October 24th. Thank you.
Good evening. Those of you who know me know that I'm passionate about art and culture. When the Oakville Jazz Festival was cancelled, I single-handedly created Western Jazz, a year-round nightly dinner theater. How many of you ever attended Western Jazz or at least know about it? I'm already getting the vote of confidence. So not only that, but during COVID, we brought entertainment to the living rooms in Oakville through the local TV network. As for green space, when I was bringing visitors from the airport along Dundas Street, I always told them, if you want pasteurized milk, you go to the supermarket on the left, or get off on the right side, and if you know how to milk a cow, you get it there, where it's all mortar and brick as far as the eye can see. And as far as I received an email like all the other candidates did from a lady called Maureen. She's very concerned about her son not getting a reasonable priced accommodation in Oakville. We have a 14-story apartment building in Bronte Village, what would set her son back by $35,000 a year for a single 1-bedroom apartment, $75,000 for 2 bedrooms. I don't know anybody in Oakville, especially the young generation, who can afford that. And the truth is that let's call it Bronte Village. I don't know any village in Canada that has a 500-unit apartment building that rents for $6,600 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So there is room to change.
Thank you all. Beth, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Harry, and the Bronte Village Residents Association for hosting this debate. On this Thanksgiving weekend, I extend a heartfelt acknowledgement to the ancestors and first keepers of the Treaty 22 lands that make up Ward 1. Welcome, Ward 1 residents and fellow candidates. I am Beth Robertson, and I'm honored to be seeking re-election as your Ward 1 Town Councillor. Meeting residents and finding out what they love and what their concerns are helped set my platform for 2018, and it's what shapes my goals for this term. As we adjusted to 2 years of COVID reality, it paused meeting in person at events and at your doors. My goal of community building shifted to a world of emails, phone calls, local Facebook neighborhood groups, and virtual meetings. I can't tell you how often I consulted the staff on the basis of a Facebook post or comment from all parts of the ward. The issues certainly vary according to where you live. Development and parking, top of the Bronte Village list. Traffic calming and speed limits, loud mufflers, plus the need for police enforcement is the key for others. In the Bronte Creek subdivision, it is bringing the 2021 Palermo Village Growth Plan to fruition, providing those residents with much needed transit and recreation facilities, as well as places to shop. I am proud of the work the town has done to enhance our waterfront and South Shell Park, and look forward to the Phase 2 completion of the Bronte West Beach in the coming term. The upcoming traffic calming measures on Ontario Street, as well as bringing the Lakeshore Woods community into the new 40-kilometer-an-hour pilot project, reflect my commitment to keeping pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers safe. I look forward to answering questions and provide further information.
John, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. A hospital visit that should have been a short transit ride turned into an exhaustive, expensive car commute due to an absence of efficient public transit system. I'm certain that I'm not the only one in this room that has experienced this. For those of you who may not know me, I am John Florio. I'm a private business owner and lead a principal consulting delivery team for human resources solutions in the field of cybersecurity, a role that demands results-driven mindset, strong business acumen, focused listening, and clear communication. It is these very skills that have helped me earn the trust and respect of award-winning technology leaders across Canada and the United States. When not leading my consulting firm, I enjoy volunteering and connecting with our community. I have previously served on various boards, such as Peel Halton Soccer Association and Oakville Soccer Club. I'm an active soccer referee and mentor and stay connected with our youth and families over the past 20 years. Furthermore, my family wanted to support clinical research and doctors working in the field of gynecological oncology in honor of my late mother who passed away from the disease. In 1998, I founded a scholarship fund supporting groundbreaking research being undertaken by our clinical scientists and oncologists of tomorrow. Oakville is growing and it will continue to grow. Our future has never looked better. I want to be part of the team that will help formulate, manage, and oversee our future growth. I am confident that my expertise, the track record of success, and community work will definitely add value to the town of Oakville when I'm mapping your municipal growth. I want to serve as your Ward 1 councillor. Expect more from this new voice. Thank you.
So this evening's first question goes to Oliver. In 2019, Town Council declared a climate emergency. In 2020, Town Council unanimously endorsed the community energy strategy. So the question is, if elected, what would you do to ensure that developers are adhering to the community energy strategy in their future development applications?
Thanks. This question is very much up in the alley, which I'm very passionate about. Since we are talking about the environment, may as well mention that I'm very upset when I go to a parking lot and I see town-owned vehicles idling sometimes for hours. When I walk over, they say they need it for the air conditioning. And what I do is I call the town or the region, and within 2 minutes, they obviously call back and they turn off the engine. So, what was the other part of the question?
So, if elected, what would you do to ensure that developers
Oh,
are...
okay, I got it. The other thing is when the town issues building permits, usually the process is that the developer picks a land and submits a proposition. And then the town either allows or disallows the building. I think the process should be reversed. The town should be selecting the land and put it up for bidding and make sure that the company who gets the permit to build there will meet all the residential regulations. That's it.
Thank you. So, Beth, I'll repeat the question again. In 2019, Town Council declared a climate emergency. In 2020, the Town Council unanimously endorsed the community energy strategy. If elected, what would you do to ensure that developers are adhering to the community energy strategy in their future development applications?
Thank you for that question, because the environment is one of the most important pieces of what I have worked on through every planning and application that came before us. You could go back through every minute and find that I constantly asked developers how they would push the province set building code. The province sets the building code. It sets the minimum standards. That doesn't mean developers can't go above and beyond. So through the energy task force, through the commitment of the town to work with developers, this is the piece I would like to see. As well, there has to be more in terms of setting up for the people that exist already. How do we retrofit homes to be able to use less gas emissions, to get rid of oil and gas furnaces? I gotta admit, when I moved to my house, it was still an oil furnace, and I'd still say there are people on my street with them. This new bill, the rebuilds, the developments, they have a chance to completely change that tone. There is a development coming to Bronte right now that is going to be geothermal and go above and beyond. Those are the things I would like to expect all the time, and I would also like to advocate to the provincial government to increase its expectations of the building code. Thank you.
Thank you. So John, I'll repeat the question. In 2019, Town Council declared a climate emergency. In 2020, Town Council unanimously endorsed the community energy strategy. If elected, what would you do to ensure that developers are adhering to the community energy strategy in their future development applications?
Question to you, Don.
Yes, sir.
I've looked over at the Oakville livable plan or livable Oakville plan, and I find that our strategy moving forward for climate change is significantly thought out, researched, and well positioned. They've got the framework in place for the future years of what we call unknown climate change. When I engage with builders, I would do the same thing I do with my business. I would ask them to present to me their best practices addressing the new development and why we should do business with them, and what guidelines and other projects that they've worked with that would embrace our criteria of having to develop their property within our town. I also believe that when we do get the builders engaged in this conversation, we have to, stress the fact that they have to add value to the town by increasing what may be solutions that will mitigate climate change, such as tree canopies and thermal energy and sun and solar and so on and so forth. So engaging with a developer that has a track record, that has a mandate and has guidelines in dealing with this future development that will serve the needs of the town of Oakville.
Thank you. Jonathan, I'll repeat the question. In 2019, Town Council declared a climate emergency. In 2020, Town Council unanimously endorsed the community energy strategy. If elected, what would you do to ensure that developers are adhering to the community energy strategy in their future development applications?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Climate change is a serious matter, and it's really going to affect the next generation, so we have to take it very seriously today. And buildings are one of the biggest emitters of carbon emissions, and they need to reduce that. And there's many good examples out there. You look across the country, especially on the West Coast, and they're going above and beyond to get their emissions down in buildings. You even drive up to Guelph, Ontario, and you see many houses plastered with solar panels on top, and we don't see that here. So I think, we have a plan, but we need to see more action, and it shouldn't be voluntary. There's pieces of the building code that encourage timber frame construction. That's a great example. It's something that stores carbon in a building, so it embodies carbon. It's sort of doing us a favor. As well, it allows houses to get to market quicker. And then, it actually reduces the price. One of the most detrimental things to the environment is concrete and glass buildings. It's so extractive and it has to travel so far. So climate change is serious. It's for the next generation, but we have to take action now. And buildings are big emitters. So we need to up the standard. We need to look at best practices, and we need to make it happen here in Oakville. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question that goes to Beth Robertson. So there has been a proliferation of coyote attacks on both people and pets in Oakville. These attacks jeopardize the overall public safety. Can you tell us what specific measures you would propose and/or support in order to limit and curtail the increasing encroachment of coyotes in residential areas?
Thank you for this question, and it's something that a resident has brought up with me over the last 2 days. Right now, wildlife is managed through the Oakville and Milton Humane Society, and there are strategies and education pieces set by the town by our bylaw enforcement. I personally have not heard of attacks on any people in Oakville. I do know that there have been attacks on animals. That said, we have a great education system, and one of the first ones is to make sure people are not leaving food available for coyote. What I'm not sure we're doing well enough at yet is educating what food means. It doesn't mean setting out food just for a coyote to come and eat. It can mean leaving your garbage stored at the side of your house. It can mean leaving your bird feeders not cleaned up. We have to address those education pieces. Relocation, according to the Wildlife Federation, is not an answer because they're territorial. Coyotes will move back in a place where a coyote has left their territory. So we need to work on educating people. And at this time, when people talk about their cats being attacked, there's a reason we have a bylaw that says you only can have indoor cats. So I want to make sure that people know that.
Thank you. John, there has been a proliferation of coyote attacks on both people and pets in Oakville. These attacks jeopardize the overall public safety. Can you tell us what specific measures you would propose and/or support in order to limit and curtail the increasing encroachment of coyotes in residential areas?
I'm of the opinion that education can solve most of the problem. I have personally witnessed people feeding the coyotes during the day. That is, in my opinion, asking for trouble. Coyotes were here before we were, and we've encroached on their properties. They're not encroaching on us. So we must respect their territory. We must understand that there are wild animals that don't really understand what's going on around them. But I would certainly work with the authorities in the town of Oakville to better educate and better manage the problems that we currently have. And I think that eventually coyotes will understand, as we keep encroaching in their particular hunting grounds, that they may eventually move out, like I've seen the deer population move out of this area as well. So again, I repeat, I would work with the authorities, the town, and educating people on how to behave or how not to behave when encountering a coyote.
Thank you. Jonathan, there has been a proliferation of coyote attacks on both people and pets in Oakville. These attacks jeopardize the overall public safety. Can you tell us what your specific measures you would propose and/or support in order to limit and curtail the increasing encroachment of coyotes in residential areas?
Thank you for the question. That's another serious issue. I've met with many residents and heard their stories. I know some of them are here tonight about some of these attacks on, out walking their dog or not feeling safe going for a run at night, or their cat gets attacked. And then look at Burlington. It's already started to attack people, seniors, kids, could be one of us. So I agree we need to do more education. We need to be more firm with our bylaws and bylaw enforcement. It shouldn't be just complaint-based. It needs to be a little bit more proactive. And then we should look at what Burlington just passed as a bylaw and try to get proactive and preventative. So let's look at what they did, see if it makes sense here. I'm for increasing the standards a little bit more for our community safety and for everybody's safety and well-being. Because let's not wait till something worse happens, and we do need to coexist. But this problem has been getting worse. I grew up in this area. When I was younger, the coyotes weren't running around here. I've never seen one in the area. So it seems like there's problems that are getting worse. And if there's been attacks nearby, right next door to us, we need to look at the standards they've put in place to make sure everybody feels safe. Thank you.
I remember the question. I get up for one reason, because the way I meet coyotes is when I'm walking my dog. Now, it would be nice if we could have a bylaw, but coyotes don't read. So, what education, like all the other candidates said, it's important. Not feeding the animals is one thing, that they keep them in the forest rather than going around buildings. And the other thing is, which is also education, and I educated myself, how to behave when you meet a coyote. They need noise and flashlight or any of those things. But the very first thing I do when I go and see a coyote, I pick up my dog. I'd rather have him bite my leg than kill my dog. So education is important. Let people know, don't feed the animals, and know how to behave when they meet a coyote. I'm yellow. Okay, thanks.
So the question goes to John first. We've been experiencing growth and development in Ward 1 for the past 4 to 6 years. This is expected to intensify more in the future as we grapple with continued population growth. So the two-part question is, what do you see as the key priorities facing residents all across Ward 1, from here in Bronte all the way up to Dundas, and how do you plan to address them?
I'm of the opinion that growth, if not managed, will manage us. So I understand that Oakville is growing and intensifying in population, but we need to get a grasp of what the province has asked us to do to accommodate growth. We have to put in place a strong team that will review and assess all the development plans that are put in place, that make sense, that add value to the community, and that make use of every inch of our land use that's available to us. We need to work with developers who understand that we want to maintain our heritage, our appeal of a small town village, if you will, and maybe looking at where this development will take place and why it's going to be there and how this development will look. So working together with the developers, working together with the great planning team that Oakville already has in place, reviewing the livable Oakville plan that has done significant work in addressing the growth and the population increase that's expected in the next little while, I think we should have a winning formula if we have the right team in place who's able to negotiate future growth.
Thank you. Jonathan. So we've been experiencing growth and development in Ward 1 for the past 4 to 6 years. This is expected to intensify more in the future as we grapple with continued population growth. So the question is, what do you see as the key priorities facing from here in Bronte all the way to Dundas, and how do you plan to address them?
Thanks for the question. So this is something that I'm very interested in. A lot of the changes that started happening in Bronte about 20 years ago is what motivated me to become a planner and want to give back to the community. So our community is changing and evolving, and that's not a bad thing. But we need to make sure we get the right types of development in the right places where they have the proper infrastructure, like higher orders of transit, GO train, highways, and things like that. Now in Bronte Village, we have a growth plan, and it's severely out of date in my opinion. It was done at a time when Bronte Village Mall was stalled, and it created a bonusing system to push development along Lakeshore Road to gateways. Now we're getting both developments. We're getting gateway development and core development. We need to take another look at that, and we also need to get the right tools that the province offers in place so that a community plan means something and it's enforceable. And those tools are available to us. They're called community planning permits. Many places are using them and they're working. So we need to do that. Up in Palermo, growth is coming from the west above Dundas, and many mistakes have been made north of Dundas. Even the planners admit it. It was a style of development that has not been successful. The rapid transit is not up there to accommodate the smaller streets, so that needs to be looked at as well. And finally, we need an advisory committee to hold our planners accountable, hold our public officials accountable, and make sure that residents' voices are heard when development applications come in. Thank you.
I'd like to get up. Exercise is healthy. The definition of a town is 35,000. Oakville is still called a town with close to 200,000. When we moved here, it was just about 60,000. So to control the population growth should be done through the town council. The number of building permits shouldn't be based on what developers propose. We should have a fixed level of additional units, and then if somebody is proposing a new building, that could be put up for the next year. When I go downtown Oakville, Bronte Village, it has the atmosphere of a small town. But if I go up on Dundas and see all those high-rises, sorry, Mississauga, it looks like Mississauga. So Mississauga is a city, Oakville is a town, and let's keep it that way.
Thank you. Beth.
This is the question I anticipated for the night. And I want to say that the official plan does protect us. It has full zoning. As the Bronte area grew with the Bronte Growth Hub, that was a 2018 addition. It's not outdated. It states clearly along our Main Street section that developments must remain according to the zoning. When the village came in, it was fought at the OMB at the time. We didn't win that one. This got its 14 stories. But if you look at what we've done and what can be done along the Main Street on Lakeshore, the maximum it can go to, according to our standards, is 6 stories. That was with bonusing. There is no bonusing anymore. Developers can ask what they want, and we have an official plan that will say it is 2 to 4 stories, that's a legal document. That was passed. The consultations for the Bronte Growth Plan were done over a year, had 9 public meetings, and we didn't see opposition to what we established as a minor growth plan for both Bronte, Kerr Street, or downtown. I can't promise you that Bronte won't change in the next 10 years, but I can promise you that we will abide by the official plan. Thank you.
So for closing statements, John, you'll go first.
The town of Oakville will always be looking at growth, change, and needs. If we do not manage growth, growth will manage us. My tomorrow consists of supporting the development of infrastructure corridors that will allow residents, commerce, visitors, ease of movement with clean energy transit routes, bicycle lanes, walkable safe streetscape, and sidewalks while respecting our environment, green space, and quality of life. I stand behind growth that engages and communicates with the residents of the ward. The right development where appropriate while adding value to our existing infrastructure and heritage in concert with efficient and effective land use planning. Cultivating and shaping a town that respects work-life balance. Ensuring sustainable economic growth that will attract the jobs, business, and young families of tomorrow. Offering a safe neighborhood, the streets common and speed sensitivity solutions are applied. Our livable Oakville plan addresses the directives of the province. The framework and mission statements seem to be pointing in the right direction. No plan is perfect. We need representation that can embrace, facilitate, and render results for the residents of Oakville. I will provide an annual progress report to the residents of my ward. Looking forward, the Ontario provincial government has asked the town to plan for growth. It is estimated that approximately 1.1 million people and 500,000 jobs will be calling Halton region home by 2051. I am confident that my professional background would serve well when asked to clearly reflect the visions, needs, and wants of the people in Ward 1. Remember my trip to the hospital? Livable Oakville could have very well facilitated the desired short transit ride. Expect more from this new voice.
Jonathan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Let me start by asking you if livable Oakville is delivering the results you expect for Bronte Village and Palermo. I've heard so many people concerned about the types of development we're getting, and I think we have to do better. Along Lakeshore Road, it's 30% developed. We have 70% to go. We see the precedence that's coming, and there's changes that we can make. So we are at a crossroads in this election. If we don't make the changes that need to happen now, it might be too late. I have the experience to deal with these complex municipal issues, and I have the skill set to hit the ground running on day one. If you trust me with your vote, I can assure you that you'll be in capable hands. I know how to collaborate, take action, and get results. We can create a better future together. If elected, I commit to contributing what I've heard from the community through door knocking, events, into a strategic plan for the next 4 years. I will set up a Ward 1 advisory committee so that you can be heard ahead of time, not reactively. I will start the process of updating our growth plans for Bronte Village and Palermo that started back in 2014, actually. I was a part of it. I would champion the right provincial tools to bring change forward in Bronte Village and Palermo and other parts of Oakville that are facing redevelopment. With our parking issues and towing in Bronte, it's made us the laughingstock of the GTA. I will get to the bottom of that and get it solved once and for all. And for all our neighborhoods, Lakeshore Woods, Bronte Creek, around Huey Park, Palermo, and Bronte Village, will have safer streets, complete communities, amenities they deserve, and the level of service as the rest of the town. And on a final note, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting so many of you at events and at your door. My grandfather used to always say there are no strangers, just friends not yet met. And that has been so true. If elected, I commit to keep on meeting with you throughout the term of council, and I will stand up and advocate for you. It would be a privilege to serve for you, but I need your vote on October 24th so that our community can reach its full potential and not miss out on opportunities. I'm confident we can do this together. Thank you.
Anyway, I want to apologize to all the candidates because I want you to vote for me. So I have to. Yes, we need new blood in town hall, but not someone who's planned for the first 100 days to learn how the town works and what his duties are. If someone has a background in urban development, keeping green space is a little bit of a conflict of interest. And the experience of 4 years in town hall, allowing buildings with 500 units and $6,600 monthly rent is not something that someone should be proud of. As you all know, engineers are practical doers. I have a bachelor degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in computer science, spent 20 years in the forest industry, did a lot to keep the Canadian forest green, and also attended council meetings. So I have the experience that I bring in, and one of the journalists, when he interviewed me, he started off saying that this guy has the energy of a 20-year-old. So I can do it, and the choice is yours. Thank you.
Beth, the floor is yours.
I just like doing this. It has been an honor to serve this past 4 years as your town councillor. I want to give a special thank you to our town's incredible staff who worked throughout the pandemic to keep our roads cleared, our parks and trails pristine for the walks that kept us going, and the courts left open for the tennis and pickleball addicts to play on all year round. I hope you will join me in the upcoming master plan discussions in January to request funding for a refrigerated ice rink and local library programs for Ward 1. I believe informed advocacy is my greatest tool as your town councillor. Councillor O'Meara and I advocated and got the Burl Oak underpass back on track with Metrolinks. I will continue to work with staff and the provincial government to bring the ownership of the Bronte Village Heritage Waterfront Park to the town of Oakville. Having sat on the Seniors Working Action Group and the Accessibility Advisory Committee for these past 4 years, I use skills which I acquired before becoming your councillor. They came from many years of caring for my husband with ALS and my entire life of service as a volunteer. For 34 years, I've been an active faith member of both St. Dominic's and Walton United Churches. I play soccer, dragon boat, pickleball with residents of every age group, gender, and cultural background. Diversity is one of the greatest assets we have to share within our community. Halton Region made a commitment to protect 5,000 acres of farmland in July. And to do this, the development of a complete community at the Bronte Go transit area will provide room for future population targets to be addressed. Developers may ask for more for Bronte, but the power of the official plan should be your assurance that the town, including me as your councillor, will not entertain the request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We only have 2 minutes to do an intro up here, and in spite of everything we've done over the past 4 years, I never would have imagined myself being here after that time. So, my name is Sean O'Meara. I lived in Oakville for over 4 years with my wife and 2 lovely kids. We've grown up here. It is our home. It's a place that we pay taxes in. It's a place that we own home in, and we love very much. In spite of everything we went through, we have accomplished some amazing things. We've revitalized our waterfront from the South Shell Park over to the Shoreline Promenade, walking paths for seniors, walking paths for families with walkers and with children and young kids. We've supported the Bronte Beach rehabilitation. Phase 2 is going to be coming. I passed a motion at council calling on the region to chip in to complete Phase 2 of the Bronte Beach and make it a top destination for all of us, not just in Bronte, but visitors and guests. We brought in a paid parking pilot project in Bronte, which opens up the door to build a parking facility. You cannot build a parking facility unless you pay in to the parking stabilization fund. Now that we've been doing that, we can borrow against it and build a parking facility. So that will be happening. We've championed road safety, from bringing forward 40 km/h on residential streets to changing the way that we do traffic calming to bringing in community safety zones. We will be bringing in photo radar, and I'm very proud of that. One thing that Beth had mentioned as well, 6 months ago the province said, oh, by the way, Burl Oak Underpass is going to cost double the money and we're kicking it down 2 years. I brought a motion forward to regional council that was approved unanimously, and Beth brought it forward, I seconded it at the town unanimously, calling on the province to keep their word. And what did they do? They kept their word. What I'm more proud of than anything, right now, utilities are being moved on the Wycroft Bridge expansion. You're going to see brush getting cut in the next month or so. 2025, the bridge is built. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. There have been a lot of conversations around the word change. To me, change is not always a positive word. Change has a lot of negatives associated with it. This is especially true when change lacks transparency and input of the community. Change can be destructive, costly, and stressful. It is not always an enhancer of how we can better our communities. I love Oakville. I was encouraged to run by my neighbors to step up and do something. I felt the need to answer that call. My vision is to enhance, preserve, protect, and upgrade what we have that is already special. There are a lot of upset people in Ward 1 with the direction of the negative change. They have not had their voices heard. I know this to be true because I have had many personal conversations with you. I promise to you that I will be accountable and an inclusive councillor to the residents of Ward 1. I have even had residents from other wards reach out to me because they feel that they have also been ignored. So tonight, I'm speaking for all of those who are being ignored in Oakville. This council that has been the same old for the last 20 years, which is now coming to an end. It's time for a fresh start. Let's do it.
So the first question goes to JD. In 2014, Oakville was voted the most livable town in Canada, with safety being cited as one of the key contributors to this positive rating. But now we see an uptick in crime in Ward 1. What are your priorities for public safety in the coming term?
Thank you, that's a great question. I actually met with the Halton Regional Police and I spoke with them to find out some of the biggest crimes that are happening now in all of Halton. The biggest crime that we face now is illegal trafficking of fentanyl. We've had 200 overdoses year to date. 11 have been fatal. Often, it is children. So this is the biggest crime now for the region. Another one that I know some of you have even told me, you've had your catalytic converters stolen off your vehicles. Some cars have been found in shipping containers on the West Coast, getting sent overseas to places like China and getting chopped up. So the thing is, the police have a problem retaining good cops. They can't afford to live in the Halton region. It's simply unaffordable now. So we have to address this as an affordability crisis, as well as being able to make Oakville and the Halton region desirable for the police to actually want to stay. Thank you.
So Sean, the second question goes to you first. No, I apologize.
I can read it here, Gary. Sorry, I can't turn it on me. In 2014, Oakville was voted the most livable town, safety being cited as one of the key contributors to its positive rating. But now we see an uptick in crime in Ward 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't live on an island. Everywhere is seeing more crime. As you grow, you see more crime. We were also, that doesn't say we were also rated as the safest town to live in Canada, and we also have the highest conviction rate of any crime that happens in Halton as well. We have the best police force. I work almost weekly with our deputy chiefs and our superintendents, from everything from speeding. I was out on their boat 2 months ago and looking at the water, what we need to do, and how we need to protect our citizens on the water and on the land. I work with them daily, but I think the thing that we need to understand is crime is pervasive. Crime comes with growth. But the thing that's important is police need to do their jobs. And we, as councillors, do not get to tell police what to do. There's a police board with people who are elected and appointed on it, and the chief of police comes to the region and says, we need this money to do this job, and here's what we're doing with it. And that happens once a year, and every time I question them, and I'm so satisfied with their answers, and I said, I will give you everything you need to make our community safe. And that's the relationship we have with our police. It's a friendly relationship, it's a cooperative relationship, but we as councillors do not direct police on what to do. You do not want elected officials or politicians telling police, go do this job or do that job. Trust me, it ends up in a bad place. So support our police, support them with their budget, help them do their job, tell them what's happening in our community, have great relationships with these people, and you're going to find out we're going to continue to have the lowest crime rate in Canada and continue to have the highest conviction rate of those criminals. Thank you.
So Sean, the second question goes to you first. So, infrastructure, you want to read this?
Yeah, you say it.
Okay. Infrastructure projects to support growth in Ward 1 are delayed. These delays just amplify how our current infrastructure is not keeping up with this growth. Delays with both Wycroft Road Bridge and the Borough Overpass started prior to COVID, resulting now in ballooning budgets for these projects. So what will you do to ensure that these two projects come to fruition in the next 4 years? And what will you do to ensure that infrastructure budgeting and planning takes priority to keep capital projects efficient and in step with growth?
Well, thank you for the question, Harry. I have to be honest, I do take umbrage with the part that the Wycroft Bridge was delayed. When I first ran in 2014, it was 2036. It was at the bottom of a dustbin somewhere. And I'll tell you all a little secret. I had no bloody clue how I was going to get it done, but I knew it needed to be done. So we went, worked at the region, got it from the town up to a regional level. At the region, there was Move Ontario money at the region that had been sitting there since 2007. I worked with our staff. I said, that money is a regional project. It needs to get allocated. In 2018, all of the region of council agreed with me, and that's 24 members of council that I convinced this was a regional project. At that point, they approved the funding. Then it had to go to the province to say, okay, you can spend our money on this project. It has all come to fruition. It was always meant to be done by 2025, and it's still on time and on track to be done by 2020. I'm very proud of that. In terms of the Borough Oak, I did briefly explore that. We've got, Kerr Street has been pushed back indefinitely, no plans at all. As soon as I heard that happen in Borough Oak, I met with the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Mulrooney. I met with MPP Stephen Crawford. I met with MPP Trentopoulos. I met with all of our MPPs and impressed upon them the urgency. We passed resolutions at the region. We passed them at the town. They got our message. They said, we're sorry, we're building it, and it'll be done on time. So that's what I did.
Thanks. Thank you. Would you like me to read the entire? Yes, sir. Infrastructure projects to support growth in the ward are delayed. These delays just amplify how our current infrastructure is not keeping up with this growth. The delays with both the Wycroft Bridge and Borough Oak Overpass started prior to COVID, resulting now in ballooning budgets for this project. So the question is, what will you do to ensure that these two projects come to fruition in the next 4 years? And what will you do to ensure that infrastructure budgeting and planning takes priority to keep capital projects efficient and in step with growth?
Thank you, Harry. That's a great question. So obviously there's a lot of congestion happening now in Oakville and actually Halton in general. So yeah, COVID did slow down a few things, but COVID has only really been a serious problem for 2 years. So what happened for the other 6 years then? Because the Wycroft Bridge has been talked about for 8 years now. So when are we going to get stuff done? I think that this becomes a very serious issue that, taxpayers are wondering, am I being ignored? The thing is, I used to drive to Aldershot to go to work. It took me 1 hour to get there from Third Line. That's unacceptable. So we have to look at congestion and growth actually as the same issue. So one of the things I would like to do is implement smart traffic sensors. If you've been to Vancouver, you'll actually know what they are. They're the flashing green lights, and it lets people know, okay, I can keep going. I'm actually going to make this light. I don't have to speed. I'm not going to T-bone anyone. I'm not going to crash into anyone. That's very important to actually also slow down speeding, is by letting a driver know you are going to make the light. One of the problems that happens in Oakville is you hit every single red light. A lot of people complain about this. Again, I think traffic patterns need to be reviewed, and I see this as a regional issue. We can get assistance, again, with Burlington, Milton, cooperation all together. Thank you.
So the third question goes to JD. Long-term care and low-income housing are at critical levels with few beds for those who are the most vulnerable in our community. So the question is, what are your priorities for the region's health and affordable housing strategy for the coming term?
I think that Oakville has to consider affordable housing. I know we talk about it a lot. Let's look at an example that happened in Ward 1. We have high-end rental units that exist there now, $5,000 a month. It's half empty. So the thing is, if we're going to put in new developments, we need to actually make sure that they're going to be used properly. I know a lot of people are concerned about COVID and they think, it's still here in a very serious way. So I believe in having a targeted approach as well. I think we should actually quarantine sick people, not healthy people. So for example, seniors residents, I think that'd be very important that we quarantine the residents, for example. So I think that, again, looking at best practices is the way how we will actually achieve this. Thank you.
I got it, Harry. It's all good. Yeah. So right now the region has 3 long-term care homes, and I was just speaking with my mother the other day, who was talking to the gentleman in Amica, and his wife is in there, and he said that she's getting better treatment in our regional long-term care home than she's getting in a private, for-profit, $6,000 a month for care home right now. So we need to work on that. We need to expand those. We can only do what we can do, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat here. The province has taken away and limited us in what we can do. We asked for inclusionary zoning, which would allow us to force developers, if you're going to build 1,000 homes, you have to put 100 affordable homes in there. They removed our ability to do that. Now, if you read the Premier's statements the other day, they're looking at doing that again. They're looking at including triplexes and duplexes in our neighborhoods because they realize we don't have the authority to do this when the developers come in, and we do not have the authority to tell them to do that. We need that authority. We have to work with our provincial partners. We have to have mixed-use communities. We have to have mixed housing, because that's the only way we are going to integrate people who need a leg up to get into the housing market, who might need a duplex for 5 years and then might need to move into a house. We need to work on the permissions. We need to have access to that, and I will lobby the provincial government at AMO, at Roma, at FCM, at every level I have to make sure that happens here in Halton. Thank you.
So for the closing statement, JD, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope that tonight has been eye-opening for the voters. I would like everyone to leave here with an open mind about what they view our community should look like. A vote for Mr. O'Meara is a vote to continue the old ways, which is many of you are unhappy with. A vote for Meaney is a vote for a fresh start. I'll be your voice on council, your moderate conservative voice. I have common sense policies, and I am for the people. Your voice matters, no matter who you are. My commitment is for everyone, even if they did not vote for me. Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." I'm following his advice. So I just want to say thank you to the BRA for this. And one thing I would like to leave everyone with, transparency. This is something that I'm going to be talking about in the next few days, what I have in my hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Harry. And I didn't have a chance to do it at the onset because I know it was clinched for time, but thank you to the BBRA. Thank you to all of you. I can tell you over my time as councillor, you are the most engaged people that I've come across, and I've lived in a few lives of different levels of municipal government and levels of government. Thank you for being engaged, because it makes a difference and it makes a better community. We are going to build a parking facility in Bronte. We're going to do that because we need it, and because it's what people in Bronte deserve, and I will get that done. We are going to redesign the lane, the streetscape of Lower Bronte Road. It is one of the most incredible places to walk and get an ice cream and walk onto the boardwalk and down into the park, and it needs to get redone. We need to have flex streets. We need to get sidewalk where people can animate the streets, and I want to have patios out there, and I want to have people enjoying that space, and we need that, and I'm going to get that done. The Bronte Harbor Banquet Center, we were so close to purchasing it from the federal government, and when COVID came, rightly so, things took a back seat. That's going to come. That's going to be a top restaurant and conference destination. Oliver, we want to have your jazz people back there as soon as that happens. There you are. Can't wait to do that. And we're going to make Palermo Village walkable. We fought the developers at Palermo for 15 years because all they wanted to do was build residential development. We said, no. You need community infrastructure. You have to have transit. You've got to get these things. We finally got them to agree. I want to see that through. We're going to get it done. And I want everyone to know something. The Municipal Act makes us have external public auditors every year. It just happened on August 17th. I'd invite everyone and anyone and candidates to come to a budget meeting. Come to an auditor's meeting. Take a look. Ask your questions. There is no, no silly business here. We're doing this on your behalf. We have great finances in town. We can afford to do these things I just said because of that. We've got great fiscal stewardship. And please, on October 24th, vote for experienced leadership. We've got shaky waters ahead. Now's the time to have experienced leadership driving us forward. Thank you very much, everyone.
So, thank you for inviting me and my colleagues here tonight. This is actually the third debate this week where I am doing a one-person show. I was in Milton on Monday. I was in Ward 3 on Tuesday, and here I am tonight. Thank you. So if my opponents are not showing up to ask for your vote, are they going to be there when you need them? No. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently a school board trustee. I have been for 8 years, and I was board chair for 4 years, up until December of last year. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've had a business for over 20 years in information technology, and I've worked with the likes of Toyota Canada, as well as ministries, and lots of clients in between. I also teach at McMaster University. I'm a computer programmer by trade. I've been teaching there for over 20 years. I'm actually in the web design program, the longest standing instructor. People often ask me, going from trustee to regional chair, well, if you look at the budget of the region, and you look at the budget of the school board, they're both actually $850 million. And so you think to yourself, well, why don't you actually hear more about the region from the chair of the region? We should be hearing more. We should be hearing more advocacy. Oh, thank you. I can't hardly see that at all.
Thank you. So the first question, according to the region's website, Halton is one of the fastest growing communities in Canada, and the province's Development Charges Act potentially puts the cost of future growth on residents. So how do you plan to advocate for Halton's interest with the province?
I'm an advocate. When I was board chair, I advocated hard. What you have to do is talk to the province and tell them the local context. Let me give you an example. 2 years ago, the province, the Ministry of Education said they had a problem with the Ontario Autism Program. They had a huge wait list of kids on that wait list, looking to get into the program, and they needed a way out. So they said, we're taking all the kids and throwing them into the education system. You have 60 days, you have no supports, there's no plan. I said, no, that's not right. I wrote letters, because that's what you start. And then I got on an interview after interview after interview. You can't do that. A lot of these kids, they're in such intense therapies that they have never been in our system. We don't have the staff for that. This is not good for them. This is not good for the system. It will be chaos. And you know what? Minister heard me. They stopped. They said, we're going to take this back. We're going to talk to experts and then move forward. That's what they should have done in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Halton Region has been advocating for increased investments by the province in public health, paramedic services, long-term care CMI, employment and social services to reflect the cost of growth as it's facing increasing funding gaps. How would you advocate at the province to fulfill these operating gaps?
Again, it's all about context. Letting them know the context. Getting them to understand their decisions and how they affect what it is in the local context, what it is operationally. So talking to them. I'm a collaborator. If you talk to any of the other trustees on the board that I've been with, we sit down, we work things out. We've had problems getting schools. I've gone to the regional chair. I've gone to the mayors. I've gone to talk to regional town councillors, because you need to get a team together to move forward to make change, and that's what I'm good at.
Thank you. And the third question, and before I mention the third question, if you were here at the debate 4 years ago, you know that we had the tendency to write these incredibly long predicates. We tried to avoid that this year. However, this last question does require some context. In 2014, Burlington experienced an extreme weather event that led to worst flooding seen in over 20 years. In 2017, several Oakville shoreline parks were closed due to flooding, and in 2019, the same areas were in high alert after higher than normal lake levels. Development, as a result of growth, creates more impervious surfaces, compounding the issue of flooding when runoffs affect local waterways. Halton Region continues to monitor floodplains and encourages construction methods to mitigate the impact of flooding in the future. So the question is, how can Halton Region lead the way for more definitive flood mitigation policies and infrastructure to better prepare for the future?
Talk to the experts. I'm an IT consultant. This is not my specialty, but let's find the people that are specialists in this. Let's get them to work with us. I always find it interesting when people expect politicians to have all the answers right now, especially when they're going for a job that they're not in. They're not the experts. You find the experts. You bring the experts. You bring them to the table. And you look for best practices. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. And now you have the floor for your closing statement.
This is a marathon. So I love Halton. I've lived in Halton for 43 of my 50 years. I've raised my family in Halton. I have 3 children. I have skin in the game. I want Halton to be great for them and their children and their children's children. There are gaps happening now at the region that we need to look at. As I'm walking around, I'm talking to single mothers in our social housing, and they're dealing with things like rats and mold and bed bugs. You're paying for that. We're paying for that. We are subsidizing their rent. We have a waste. We should be looking at what our next waste management will be. Are we going to dig another hole? We should be looking at that now. Are we going to be shipping it off, our waste, to someplace else? Why don't we look for innovative technologies? Look to Japan. Look to Switzerland. They are making clean energy from waste. Why not try it here? I'm not into change for the sake of change. But let's be strategic. Continuous improvement. That's a mantra of mine. Let's look at everything. Is this working? Is this best practice? Yes? Okay, move on. Let's look at this. No, we're not there. Let's dig in. I'm not doing this for just the residents here. We have to realize that our decisions cast long shadows. I knew that in the school board, and I know that now. So it's time to make a decision to have a fresh vision at the region. Please vote for me, Andrea Grabetz, on October 24th. Thank you.